Welcome to the Ramu Media Show, where we celebrate individuals whose professional journeys and personal stories are both inspiring and instructive. Today, we are honored to host Mrs. Vrinda Kumble, an editor and passionate botanist. Vrinda holds a postgraduate degree in English literature from Oakland, California, and her deep love for plants and farming comes from her father, an ardent botanist who inspired her deep love for plants and her lifelong passion for nature. The youngest of 6 siblings, Vrinda grew up in a large joint family in a traditional Malleshwaram home in Bengaluru, surrounded by cousins and greenery, an environment that clearly shaped her life and choices. Vrinda, it's wonderful to have you with us today. You completed your BA Honours in Literature and then pursued your post-graduation in the US. What drew you towards that decision, and how did your academic interests evolve during that time?
I must start by saying I'm honored to be here and also highly flattered. My father had originally gone to the US way back in 1920, at a time when no one else did. Then 2 of my sisters went to the US and studied postgraduate. One of them went to this Mills College where I later went. She was on a Fulbright scholarship. And she encouraged me to apply there. She got me the forms and everything. So I got a fellowship to go there and did my MA.
We understand your father, Mr. Nirodi, though not formally trained in botany, wrote extensively on gardening and even pursued botanical studies in Massachusetts. He also collaborated with Sir Edwin Lutyens during the landscaping of New Delhi. You have mentioned that your father also knew the famous horticultural Mr. Gustav Krumbiegel, who is known for his work at the Lal Bagh Botanical Gardens in Bengaluru. Please tell us more about your father's remarkable journey and how it influenced you.
His love for plants was native only to him. No one in his family seems to have had it. And he never studied botany formally. But all his knowledge was gained by practical work. And he wrote a book in 1918 called Half Hours with a Modern Alchemist, based on his experience with enriching the soil and growing plants and all that. And then he thought he would like to have a formal degree in botany. So he applied to Amherst College in Massachusetts. And he had no degrees or anything to send, but he sent this book as his qualification. And Amherst was open-minded enough to not only admit him, but give him a scholarship. And when he got there, the first Sunday, he went to look at the nursery. And he saw the gardener putting all the wrong labels on the plants. So Papa, being Papa, went and said, no, this belongs here and this belongs there. And he didn't know the dean was watching. The dean called him to his office and asked him a few more questions, and he said, you don't need to do your BSc, go straight for your MSc. Wow. So he came back with an MSc.
Wow.
He came back in 1922.
Wow.
Much later, he and Mr. Krumbiegel collaborated particularly on the Jubilee Park in Jamshedpur.
I see.
J.R.D. Tata had wanted to give the people of Jamshedpur a park as the marker for the Golden Jubilee. And he asked my father to do the planning and planting. He and Krumbigal were to do it together, but Mr. Krumbigal passed away right in the middle. So Papa had to complete it on his own. And the only condition was that it be ready for the Golden Jubilee, which gave him 2 years to do it. But it was done, in spite of a lot of hurdles.
During your stay in the US, you began working for a publishing house, and that phase of life brought you to your future husband. Tell us about that exciting chapter and the experience of obtaining your work visa.
In those days, you could, after you finished your degree, you could extend your visa for 18 months for practical training. And I wasn't interested in teaching, and I wasn't interested in doing research on literature to decide whether Marlowe wrote Shakespeare or Bacon wrote Shakespeare. So I decided to work for a publishing house. And the funny part was that you had to apply for permission to accept a job. The application said that. But then you had to have a job in order to have that. It was a circular thing. Luckily, I found a company which was willing to give me promise me the job and fill in all whatever paperwork was needed. So I worked for them for a year and a half and met my husband in New York. We got married in New York and lived in the US for another 15 years.
You eventually stepped away from corporate life to focus on your home and family, supporting your husband as he pursued his PhD in metallurgy. What guided that decision? And how did you balance personal and professional aspirations during those years?
Well, we both always wanted to come back to India. And my husband said, if we are going back, I need to have a PhD. So after having worked for 7 years, he went back to college to get his PhD. And the scholarship was not enough to support 3 of us.
Right.
So I went to work and did all sorts of jobs. But eventually started working for the College of Agriculture at the University of Vermont. And that brought all my interests together because my literature for the editing and my interest in plants for the agriculture. So I stayed in that field and it led me to many interesting experiences.
You went on to work as an editor for several international scientific journals, including those of ICRISAT, the Rice Research Institute at Manila, and other global agricultural organizations. Could you share how this editorial journey began and how you managed to work remotely much before work from home became common?
The person I had worked for in Vermont came as the director of publications to ICRISAT in Hyderabad. And he called me up and said, would you work for us? I said, yes, I would love to, but I can't come to live in Hyderabad. If you send me the work, I'll do it at home. It doesn't require my being. It took him almost a year to convince the administration that such a thing was possible. Because their first thought was, well, if she claims to have worked for 8 days, how do we know that she actually worked for 8 days?
Yes.
So he managed to convince him. And that led me to, there's a whole network of international agricultural research institutes. And I worked for many years for ICRISAT. I also worked for the Rice Research Institute in the Philippines. And it took me to various places because I went to West Africa, I went to Egypt. And
then came the Colombia chapter.
my husband, after retirement, had been offered a job at the Tata Consultancy Services in Pune. He had been promised a free hand to do whatever he wanted. But when we actually got there, he found lots of roadblocks. And he was getting very frustrated. So I said, why are you working? You've worked all your life. Quit. Let's go to Colombia. Colombia, because the person I had worked for in the Philippines had gone to an agricultural research institute in Cali, Colombia. And I applied to him, and he invited me to edit the proceedings of a conference they were going to have. Of course, my sister shrieked hysterically and said, Colombia, why do you want to go to Colombia? It's such a dangerous place. So I said, well, people hearing about India outside probably think this is a dangerous place because we have, but we lead a normal life. I'm sure Colombians do too. And it was an excellent decision. We had spent 2.5 months there, and it was really a lovely experience. The people are so warm and friendly, and beautiful country, so the landscapes. Yes, the drug lords were there, and their presence was always felt because just a week before we were due to go to Cali, we had stopped in Princeton to see our son. And that was on a Friday. And on the Monday, Ranjit woke us up saying, bad news, Tom Hargrove has been kidnapped. Tom Hargrove was the person who had invited me to Cali. So we didn't know what the situation was, whether there's a revolution. My sister would have said, yes, there will be they always have revolutions. But, so I called him up, and his assistant said, excuse me, no, there's no general disturbance. We just think he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because the guerrillas specialized in kidnapping people who could pay ransom. And he said, we are giving everyone the option of not coming to the conference. We said, we have come this far, let's go. So we went, and we had a lovely time.
Okay. In 1997, you and your husband made a life-changing decision, leaving the comfort of city life to settle on a farm near Mysore. What inspired this shift to rural life, knowing it might not guarantee steady income?
We had bought this land way back in 1978 because my husband always wanted to start a school for the village children, a free school. But we were living in Delhi and then in Pune, and we couldn't get people to manage it. Every time we thought of selling it, we didn't have the heart to because it was a beautiful place with a lake at the foot of it. So then we decided that if we wanted to keep it, we should live there. So we rented a house nearby and got a farmhouse built and moved in there. So I knew all about farming in theory. My Delhi Mali used to say, Mem Saab, aap to sirf theoretical jante hain. And I must admit the ground reality was very different. We learned a great deal living there on that farm. We had decided from the beginning that it would be an organic farm. And everyone told us won't work. And we had the hardest time convincing our workers because they were so used to using chemicals. They didn't believe that you could farm without. And it is much harder. Our neighbors all sprayed pesticides, so all the pests took sanctuary in our farm. And but when ours was the first organic farm in that belt. And after that, other people started also going that because it makes sense.
Yes.
So we did that for many years. It used to bother me now and then that we never treated it as a business. So we didn't make any money. We didn't even break even. And it was, every now and then I'd fret about it. Finally my husband said, look, if we had been living in that noisy flat in Bangalore, we would have lived on my pension. We are living in these beautiful surroundings, doing what we love doing. We are supporting 4 families. And we are living on my pension, so what's your problem? So it depends on how you look at it.
Right. For 13 years, you both worked tirelessly on your farm, growing a variety of fruits,
Yes.
especially chiku, and training local workers in organic farming, often going against conventional advice. Please tell us about this experiment in simple living and sustainable agriculture.
We had to convince not ourselves but everyone else that this will work. Fortunately, there were many organic farmers in that whole area who did not get the prices that they needed in the open market. So we formed an association of organic farmers. We hired a building where we would bring our produce. We hired staff to manage it jointly. And it became very popular. To begin with, people were a bit skeptical. They'd say, oh, your chikus are so expensive. They're only 40 rupees in Hopkins. You're charging us 55 rupees. So it said, buy a half kg and decide for yourself. The thing was that the market chikus are always picked too early.
Yes.
And they don't ripen. Whereas the person who did the planting for us had taught us when to pick them. So every one of us ripened and also was very tasty. The thing about organic farming is the first thing is the taste of naturally grown vegetables and fruits. I give you an example. When we first started out, we planted tomatoes and we got a bumper crop. But so did every other farmer in the area. So the price of tomatoes fell to 1 rupee a kg. So my husband took 2 or 3 baskets of them to a friend who had a pizza parlor. He said, I don't want to be paid for them. I just want them used. But he insisted on paying us 5 rupees a kg because he said they were so tasty. This is the thing about organic farming. People try it out and then the taste converts them to paying the higher price. The higher price is because you have to sacrifice so much to pests, to birds, to bats. Anyway, we shared our produce with
With guidance from Mr. S. Vishwanath, a renowned advocate of rainwater harvesting, you created an efficient irrigation system that sustained your crops even during droughts. You also organized visits for local farmers to Tumkur to study water conservation practices. Could you share how this initiative worked?
Yes. There's a place near Tumkur called Tiptu where this organization called BIFE operates, helping the local farmers with the farming generally. And there they initiated this kind of rainwater harvesting with huge farm ponds on each level. So the top pond would fill, and there was a channel which took it to the next level and the next level. And at the lowest level, they built a little check dam and had a reservoir. And it was, when they built that dam, they had to go 3 kilometers to bring water to build it. But now it has water year round. And farmers who used to go away to work in Coorg and other places could farm their own land and live at home. So we thought of introducing that in our area, but it wasn't very successful because the farmers said, it works there, it won't work here. We just did it on our own farm with Vishwanath guiding us. Farm ponds on each level with the water going down to the bore well. And pits dug all around the bore well with pebbles and sand in them so that the water percolates down. It seemed not very convincing to begin with, but even during drought years, our well had water, where many dried up. We also had drip irrigation for the whole farm.
But did that convince the other farmers? No. That's really
not the group that we took there. They had a nice picnic and came back.
Okay. That's truly remarkable. We also hear that your husband became a beloved figure in the community, even teaching English to local villagers who later stood by you during challenging times, especially during the conflict with the nearby poultry farm. How did that community support shape your experience?
My husband always wanted to teach.
Yes.
We wanted to start a school on that farm, but that never happened. But he used to give English tuition to the village children. There's a temple down the road from the farm, which is an old Hoysala temple dating back to 1298, I think, which had been restored by the Dharmastara Trust.
Yes.
And they gave him a room to start a library and have his English classes. And because other tutors charged so much, and this was free, the village children came, got their English tuition. And so he was well known in the village. Villagers came to our aid when we needed it. Like someone was starting a poultry farm opposite us, which was against the law.
I see.
So in that area. So my husband complained to the pollution board, which stopped the poultry farm. So that farmer had a real grudge against us. He set fire to the, we think it was him, couldn't think of anyone else. When at the lowest level of the dry leaves. Fortunately, the woman who was working for us heard the flames as they came up. So my husband just got in the van and went to the village, told them, picked up a few people and came back. Within 20 minutes or so, about 20 people came and beat out the fire for us. So we were protected.
Yes. After your husband's passing in 2012, you continued to manage the farm, steadfastly refusing real estate offers and carrying forward both his and your father's legacy. We understand that a kind government surveyor helped resolve some land issues. Could you elaborate?
Yes. after my husband passed away, all my relatives in Bangalore wanted me to move here immediately because I would be alone. My son asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I want to live here at least for 1 year because my whole life has been turned topsy-turvy. I don't want also to move to a new place.
Correct.
He said, if you're physically safe, you do whatever you like. I said, yes, I'm more physically safe here than in the city. So 1 year became 8 years because I refused to sell to anyone who would make it into a development, bulldoze our trees. And I was told repeatedly that that wouldn't be possible. I wanted to sell to someone who would keep it as a farm. The developers had come on 3 sides of us and they really wanted our farm. They tried all sorts of things. They told our farm supervisor, we'll pay you 5 lakhs if you persuade her to sell to us.
Wow.
He didn't tell me till after I had sold the farm. Then they came with a surveyor and said, you've encroached 15 feet onto our land. And you follow Kannada?
Yeah.
ನೀವು ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಆದರೆ JCB ತಂದು ಕಿತ್ತಾಕ್ತೀವಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫೆನ್ಸ್. They must have thought, oh, this old white-haired lady should be easy enough to intimidate. I said, there's no need to threaten me. There's a procedure for this. I will also get a survey done. And if I've encroached, I'll give it up. If I have not, you can get lost. So I was very fortunate that there was a young lady in the land records office. It was very heartening to see a government official like that. Efficient, honest, concerned about the people she dealt with. When I told her, she said, I'll come myself to make sure nothing fishy is going on. So she brought the surveyor and found that there was no encroachment. So I continued. And I must have done some punyam in my last life because I got a buyer who was made to order for me. He has kept it as a farm. He kept my workers on for about 2 years so they could find something else. And he's still in touch with me.
So nice.
He sends me produce from the farm. It's really nice.
And finally, after years of dedication, you found a like-minded farmer to take over your land in 2020. How difficult was that decision to give it up? And how has your post-retirement life been at the retirement community?
I had decided long ago that I would own my property and my property wouldn't own me. Because I've seen many people who are so attached to their property that they'll starve rather than sell it. I've lived there for 8 years and I felt it was time to move on. So it wasn't really that difficult. And because I'm still in touch, it's okay.
Makes it easy.
Post-retirement, I looked at many communities. I found each more depressing than the last. Finally came here. And I think it was the best decision I could have made because there's such a feeling of community here. There's a warmth and a friendliness which I really value. So I'm really happy here. Not just resigned, but I'm actively happy.
Yeah, nice to hear that. Vrinda, thank you for sharing your extraordinary journey. From a passionate student to a publishing professional, from a devoted homemaker to an international editor, and finally, a committed organic farmer. Your life is a beautiful example of perseverance, purpose, and quiet achievement.
Thank
We
you.
are honored to bring your story to our viewers and hope it inspires many to find meaning in every stage of life.
Thank you.
This has been the Ramu Talk Show. Stay tuned for more conversations with remarkable individuals whose life continue to inspire us in their silver years. And if you would like to honor your loved ones by preserving their life stories and legacies in their own words, reach out to Ramu Media Show. Together, let's celebrate the lives that continue to inspire.